consent.
Mr. Chair, we're on the air whenever you're ready to begin.
Thank you. We are. Our meetings are noticed to start at 9. It's a bit after, so I will call to order the meeting of the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission for the 9th of February, 2022, and ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Villalobos, you will call the roll and give the TV coverage announcement, I assume.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV, Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, Samaria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcast of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays after 5 p.m. on CSB TV, Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to the roll call. Commissioner Bridley.
Here.
Commissioner Park. I believe looks like he's running a little late. Commissioner Farini also looks like he's running a little late. Commissioner Blau.
Here.
And Chair Cooney.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. This is the time we're to reconsider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Staff continues to recommend that the Commission make the findings that a state of emergency still exists and direct staff to continue to hold the remote hearings.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bridley.
Aye.
Commissioner Blau.
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, that brings us to the agenda status report and the projection report. Back to you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regards to the status of the agenda today, we have one item on the standard agenda, and staff is ready to present on that. And I can do the projection report, Mr. Chair, if you'd like.
Please.
Our next scheduled hearing is going to be on February 23rd. There's a number of items on that date. We have a Cannabis Appeal off of Drum Canyon. And then we have two presentations by Long Range Planning, their work program, and a report on housing related matters, and their comprehensive plan annual progress report. That's on February 23rd. And then moving to March 2nd, we have an appeal of a cannabis operation off of Highway 1. The address is San Julian Road in the Lompoc area. And then we have a Carpinteria cannabis cultivation site on that day as well at 3508 Via Real. And then we had previously scheduled the Arctic Cold on March 2nd. Staff has continued to work to get that project complete and get the staff report complete. Based on that and the number of items, that kind of the big items on second, we've tried to move it to March 9th, the following week. I know we have some discussions with the applicant right now or their agents on whether or not that date's going to work. But we'll brief the Planning Commission at the following hearings if that changes. After that, March 30th is our next hearing, and there's Long Range Planning is bringing their 5-year capital improvement program for the Planning Commission's review. That concludes the projection report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Do the commissioners have any questions regarding the projection report? Okay. I think I see Commissioner Park has arrived.
Yeah, a quick question of Secretary Wilson. Do we know about April yet? I was invited to an engagement out of town in the second week of April, and I don't know if we have a Planning Commission meeting that I think it's the second Wednesday of April.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, I'll have to get back with staff on what we've projected out to April. As of yet, I don't have that in front of me, but we can circle back with you separately on that date. Was that the second week of April, Commissioner Park?
It is. It is. It's
Okay, well, we can follow up with you separately on what we have projected. As of right now, staff hasn't anything projected past March. We can
okay.
look
Well,
into
thank
that.
you. I appreciate that.
Okay, Commissioner Farini's arriving. Always good to have you, but since you've stepped down as chair, Commissioner Farini, there's just a totally different time frame.
Okay. Yeah, I've of two computers. I struck out on both, so I'm on my phone.
Oh, shoot.
No internet. So a little technical difficulty. I apologize. Okay.
You look good. You look just fine, Commissioner Farini. Yeah, we would barely know.
Just to pipe in, gotta tell you, don't know what's going on with the internet and with services, but last night my wife could not watch Netflix. Really just.
Oh. Catastrophe.
Yeah.
That should get into the minutes. Okay, we just finished the projection report. Commissioner Park had a comment. Commissioner Farini, I don't know if you had any concerns about the next few meetings.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Chair Cooney.
Mr.
That
Chair,
brings us- Go ahead.
I apologize. I made a quick call, and I thought perhaps Commissioner Park was asking because typically we do have Board of Supervisors budget hearings in April, and we have often canceled our April hearings when they conflict. So we do have a meeting scheduled for April 13th. I just spoke to clerk of the board staff, and they confirmed that budget workshops are scheduled for April 11th and April 13th. So we will likely have a conflict on that date for the 13th.
Okay,
Which means we either cancel it or reschedule it.
right. Well, we'll try and accommodate Commissioner Park in the same process. Let's move to the public comment. This is the opportunity for any member of the public that happens to be joining us this morning to make comment on matters which are not on today's agenda. We have only one item on today's agenda, so anything else that a member of the public would like to speak on, this is the opportunity. Mr. Villalobos, do you have anybody that might be present for public comment?
Mr. Chair, no, we have no one currently present for public comment.
Okay, we will move on to the Planning Commissioner's informational reports. Anything that any of the commissioners have to offer this morning? Don't see anybody, but then. Okay. We'll go on to the director's report, and good morning to Ms. Plowman.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. We have a pretty light report today. We haven't had anything at the Board of Supervisors this week or last week. We don't have any change in the status of our COVID protocols, so I don't need to cover that. We are continuing to accept appointments, etc. And I just have future board items to share with the commission. We have the appeal of the Central Coast Ag's land use permit going to the board that had gone to the commission on 2/15. We have the Galileo Apartments off Patterson going to the board on the 1st of March. The G&K processing facility appeal is going on the 1st of March. And then on the 8th, we have the Orcutt gas station and Exxon trucking. And then on the 15th of March, we have 3 items. The long range work program, which you will be hearing in advance of that. That's for LRP, and then the Steiner appeal of the Rufino map on the 15th, and the Hawker Philippines, which is coming out of Montecito Planning Commission. So I do not have anything further, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? I see Commissioner Bridley.
Thank you, Director Plum. I had a question. Several hearings back, we had testimony from Paul Poirier about the FTP site being able to upload plans. And I've heard, various folks saying it's still sort of an issue. Can you give us any update on that? If I don't know if it's a matter of a whole system-wide upgrade or addition of capacity or whatever, but how is that looking these days?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Briley. So we've been making efforts to streamline the process in building and safety, and I think that's where the snag has been. I think I may have shared with the commission that the process we went through to transition, pretty much on a dime to accepting applications only online at the beginning of COVID really was a temporary fix, but it's lasted 2 years. And so the shortcomings of that process, that temporary process, are really straining the system. So we are in the process of updating the Acela permit system that we currently have, moving to a cloud-based system, which will be, a genuine online submittal program is in the works. But in the interim, we are in the process of trying to correct the slowdown that has happened due to the way the building division had set up their process. So we've hired extra help people. We've put people out on, hired consultants to help with some plan check review, and they're making some adjustments to the internal process about how, what happens to plans when they get uploaded into the system. So we're doing the best we can to try and fix that problem. But I understand the complaints, they're valid. And we're just doing as much as we can with the resources we have to have a temporary solution until we can have the new Acela program up and running.
Oh, so that's what you're doing? You're actually upgrading the whole Acela program, and that you're probably going to fix it, because I have experience with the city of Santa Barbara, which is a little smoother in the uploading, but it's still clunky compared to me taking my stuff in and actually submitting it. So thank you for the update.
Yeah, no problem.
Anybody else? Commissioner Blau.
Yeah, I just have one question for Director Plowman. I've had a number of people complain, me being one of them, where there are certain occasions when I can't pay a fee to the county of Santa Barbara in Santa Maria. It has to be delivered to Santa Barbara. Can you help me to figure out a way where we stop doing that? What difference does it make when I deposit a check to Santa Barbara or to Santa Maria if it's made payable to the county of Santa Barbara?
Yeah, Commissioner Blau through the chair. I'd have to look into that. I mean, I understand the complaint, but I think I need to get a better understanding of why we would even require that. And that may be because you can certainly do it online with a credit card, although people may not want to do that.
In certain cases, that's not true. And I think one was the fire department. If I don't physically take the check to the fire department in Santa Barbara, it don't happen. I just ask you to look into it. I think it needs to be changed so that what difference does it make where I deposit the check to the county? Just a request. I appreciate it.
Sure. I did want to, I'm receiving a note that it tends to be related to other departments. And so that may be something we can talk to the other departments about. But I did want to say, before I depart, that I know that this is Commissioner Blau's last Planning Commission meeting. And I wanted to take a minute to express my gratitude for his service. He's brought a unique perspective as a developer and to the commission, and been able to understand applicants' perspectives and the challenges that they go through, and has always been a straight shooter and shared what his perspective is. And you've served a long time on this commission, and I just really appreciate your public service.
Well, that's quite an announcement.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's one I didn't know about, so that's okay. But I appreciate that. Although I did tell Supervisor Lavanito that if and when he gets my replacement, I will resign at his request. So I guess I'm resigning today. I don't really know.
You know what? Maybe I have that wrong. I am so sorry.
Well, I did watch the supervisor's hearing yesterday, and they did not have my replacement on the agenda for tomorrow. I don't know if he's going to be appointed next Tuesday or not, but I did tell Mr. Lavanino that I get it. I'm no longer in the 5th district. Eventually, there's some question as to whether or not my term is up today or December 31st or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I will do whatever Mr. Lavanino wants me to do. That's what I'm doing. So, yeah.
You know what? I have probably spoken out of turn, but you can accept my comments for when they are appropriate.
But whatever. The reality is, no matter what, I'm off today, next week, or December 31st for damn certain. You know, I will not accept another appointment. So whatever. But appreciate your comments, Lisa. That's great.
Well, Commissioner Blau, there's a big difference between December 31st and today.
Yes.
And it catches us by surprise, those of us who would make comments, and I'd suggest we defer those until it becomes more clear. At worst, you can join our meeting for the beginning once you're ready to truly resign, and we'll have an opportunity to express our appreciation for your service all these years.
I appreciate that.
Commissioner Park. You're muted, John. You're also being attacked.
Yes. I just want notice of that final meeting so we can give you a proper send-off, i.e. roast, but whatever. I want to be prepared. So.
Well, it won't be today, I don't think. So there you go, John. I'll give you the opportunity to get prepared. Look forward.
You know that I have a standing offer to relocate one of my horse trailers onto one of Larry Freeney's farms in the 5th district, so you can have a place to live there and stay on the planning commission. I'm sure you'd love that.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I tried to put my motorhome in the 5th district, and county council said doesn't count. So, I know, Miss Richardson, you could explain that to him.
Wow. Well, we took an abrupt turn there away from our business. We have a full room of people wanting to address the first item on our standard agenda. So if we can all assume that we will have a chance to address Commissioner Blau's retirement from the commission in the future, I think we can move on. So, Mr. Villalobos, will you read item 1 on the standard agenda into the record, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of the appellant, Jan van de Bos, to consider case number 21 APL 42, an appeal of the planning director's approval of case number 21-146.
Do we have any declarations by commissioners regarding this project?
Yes.
Commissioner Park.
Yes, I made a site visit along with Commissioner Freeney, and met with the applicant's agent, Brett Jones. And that was last week, I think.
And Commissioner Bridley.
I just spoke with Brett Jones yesterday, briefly on the phone. I didn't do a site.
You did or didn't do a
I
site?
did not do a site.
Okay.
I just spoke to him on the phone.
Thank you.
And Chair Cooney, I can't figure out how to raise my hand on the iPhone, but my hand's up. And yes, I was on a site visit with Brett Jones last week with Commissioner Park.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Freeney. I'll try and keep alert to your hand signals as we go along here.
Thanks.
Okay, so the appellant, the Vanderboos side of things will have the opportunity to make its presentation first, but we have a staff presentation preceding that. So Ms. Mitchell, are you ready to go?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm just going to give a moment for the PowerPoint to show up. Okay, there we go. So the case before you today is a request by Jan Vanderboos to consider an appeal of the Adamson land use permit, which approved a new 2,600 square foot single family dwelling and swimming pool. Next slide. As shown on the vicinity map before you, the project site is located off of Alamo Pintado Road, just north of the community of Ballard. Surrounding uses are primarily agricultural and residential. This parcel is zoned Ag 110, and single-family dwellings and residential accessory structures are permitted in this zone with a land use permit when in conformance with the LUDC development standards. Next slide. The only existing structure on this 10-acre property is the feed structure, which is pointed out on this image. There was a 2,400 square foot barn, but it was recently demolished. Random Oaks Road is a private road that provides access to the project site. There is a non-exclusive easement for ingress and egress over Random Oaks Road, which provides access to several parcels west of Alamo Pintado Road. The proposed single-family dwelling will be located in approximately the same footprint of the demolished barn. Next slide. Here are a couple recent site photos. On the left, you can see the project site as viewed from the driveway off Random Oaks Road, so looking north. And the right is showing the view of Random Oaks Road looking east towards Alamo Pintado Road. Next slide. The subject property was validated with a conditional certificate of compliance dated May 27, 2014, which included a requirement to obtain all necessary permits for the existing barn and feed structure, which were unpermitted at that time. A land use permit was issued on June 13, 2014 for the barn and feed structure. On June 8, 2021, a demolition permit was issued for the demolition of the barn, and the land use permit for the new single-family dwelling was approved on August 11, 2021, based on the application's conformance with the LUDC development standards. A timely appeal was subsequently filed by Jan Vanderboos. Next slide, please. This is the current site plan for the project before you today, which includes the 2,600 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling and the 16 by 40 foot swimming pool. The project description has been revised since the land use permit was approved and now also includes the 960 square foot detached garage. Additionally, the footprint of all proposed development has been moved approximately 20 feet east of the originally proposed locations in order to keep the project further from the toe of slope that is located west of the building area. Next slide. So moving on to the appeal issues, the appellant cited the following 3 issues as the basis of this appeal. First, the appellant asserts that the project's proposed access off of Random Oaks Road is unacceptable because construction trucks will create dangerous conditions for her neighboring horse rehab center and for the other users of Random Oaks Road. The appellant also states that the trees along Random Oaks Road have become overgrown. Second, the appellant asserts that the City of Solvang Municipal Code prohibits a pool or spa from being built in the required front or side yard setback area. And last, the appellant identifies 3 specific issues related to the demolished barn, including that the barn was never properly permitted as required per the conditional certificate of compliance, that the barn was potentially historic, and that the demolition of the barn presented health risks related to asbestos. Next slide. In response to Appeal Issue 1, staff reviewed the title report for the applicant's parcel and confirmed that Random Oaks Road is located on the applicant's property. Other parties hold a non-exclusive easement over Random Oaks Road, but this does not exclude the applicant from using the road. A condition of approval has been applied to the project, which requires that parking for all construction vehicles be located on-site and outside of any road right-of-way. Random Oaks Road is required to meet the county fire department standards for safety, including maintaining sufficient vertical clearance for emergency apparatus access. The applicant is responsible for all maintenance for the portion of Random Oaks Road that is on their property, including any necessary tree trimming. In response to Appeal Issue 2, staff notes that the proposed project is not within the jurisdiction of the City of Solvang and therefore is not subject to the City Municipal Code. The proposed pool and spa and associated equipment do meet the LUDC setback requirements for the Ag 1 zone district and will not impede or interfere with the use of Random Oaks Road. In response to Appeal Issue 3, staff confirmed that a building permit was never obtained for the barn, but the recent demolition of the barn resolved any potential violation status. Staff reviewed county records and aerial imagery of the property and confirmed that the barn was less than 50 years of age and therefore was not historically significant. The applicant obtained a demolition permit from the Building and Safety Division to ensure that the demolition was performed in compliance with all county requirements, and the contractor that performed the demolition confirmed that there was not asbestos-containing materials in the barn. Next slide. This project can be found exempt from CEQA because CEQA guidelines sections 15303 and 15304 apply. These sections apply to the construction of one single-family residence and private alterations in the condition of land. Next slide. In conclusion, this project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the Santa Ynez Valley Community Plan, and the LUDC. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission deny the appeal, case number 21 APL-42, make the required findings for approval for case number 21 LUP-146, determine that the project is exempt from CEQA, and grant de novo approval of the project, subject to the conditions set forth in Attachment B of the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Very concise report. Questions from any commissioner? Don't see one. So are we ready to move on to the appellant? Looks like we are. Who's going to be presenting for the appellant today?
Mr. Chair, I believe that our appellant is joining us via telephone.
Okay.
Yes, hi. That would be me. I'm Jan Vandevos.
Ms. Vandevos, could you give me an idea of approximately how long your presentation is scheduled to take?
It's not too long, probably 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Just want to have a ballpark. So I'm writing down 15 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Delibos, and thank you, Ms. Mitchell. My name is Jan Vandevos, and I own and run Springtime Farm. adjacent to the applicant's property. It is a model aftercare program in this country. I'm a breeder in Lexington and bought this property over 10 years ago in order to rehabilitate off-track thoroughbreds. There are only a few in this country of this type of program. We take X-race horses, many of those are mine, get them sound with the help of Alamo Pintado Equine Clinic, which is just down the road. And after they're sound, I retrain the horses myself. Many of these horses have suffered catastrophic injuries that would preclude them from going on to second careers. Many horses, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the racehorse business. It's quite a difficult business for horses. Many are euthanized off the track, and not because of injuries, but because they're perhaps not racing to a level which their owners would be comfortable with. I have taken it upon myself to develop this program, and very proud of the fact that I'm able to rehabilitate these horses and get them back into the community. They're adopted out. I've taken in over 75 in the past 10 years and gotten them sound and retrained them, and they are showing in most of the top show homes in the country. Some of those were, as I said, very catastrophic, fractured skulls, fractured legs. And so consequently, I'm obviously very protective of these animals, and that is one of the reasons why I've decided to appeal the Adamson land use permit. I have 3 or 4 points that Tina did mention, but I have some other research that I'd like to tell you about today. And firstly, let me just get my notes here. I had the opportunity to purchase this land for 10 years. The reasons being that I decided not to purchase the land were some of the subdivide problems that Mr. Sanchez discussed with me. I investigated with other realtors in the area, the water situation, the electrical situation, the unpermitted barn, and felt that it was not in my best interest to buy that parcel. It would have been very easy for me to go in and make an offer of probably less than $1 million and use that land for grazing and pasture for some of my off-track thoroughbreds. But I decided against it because I do things in a legal manner. I always have. I've been a businesswoman and had a career in San Francisco as a journalist and an editor for some of the newspapers. And I didn't feel that it was in my best interest. Now, if I were to go back and think about what might come of me not purchasing that property, I might have done things a little differently. I'm very, very protective of these animals that I have spent 10 years rehabilitating. I do not know the Adamsons. I've had a few little issues with them when they moved into the property. I welcomed them and I discussed with them some of the problems in the neighborhood, coyotes and just little things, and welcomed them to our community. We didn't get off to a very good start. Some of the issues, without getting into that, some of the issues that I would like to discuss today, the most important, I would say, was the demolition of the barn. I typically ride 3 or 4 horses a day when I'm there at the farm, and my workers are either lunging or long lining. We're hand walking horses. We do a lot of vet work. I do most of the vet work myself there at the farm. And the road, Random Oaks Road, which it has now been named, is quite a small road. It's very difficult for 2 cars to pass without going off into the trees. And hence my concern with having large trucks and water trucks and framing trucks using that small road. It services a lot of the residents, most of the residents in the area. And a lot of the residents do have horse trailers. We often have to load ill horses, sick horses that need to go to the clinic emergently onto horse trailers in that road. We do have a fire turnaround on our property, which is mandatory in that area, but many times the horse trailers are larger and need to be loaded, as I said, out on Random Oaks Road. I would like to talk a little bit about, not to get onto the road, but talk a little bit about this barn demolition. We had no information on anything to do with the demolition. I was actually on a horse the day that this happened, and riding a horse, and I noticed a demolition truck and got off the horse, went over and spoke to a very nice man. I can't remember his name. He was the demolition man. He called it the contractor, whose name was Kerry Hall. And I spoke to him, and I briefly asked what was happening, and he explained it to me. I did ask him about asbestos at that time. He did say to me that they had a permit. I asked to see the permit. He did not have the permit with him. And I asked him to give me a half hour. I'd like to call my attorney and call some people. And I came back and spoke to him about asbestos. I have a letter here from Jeff Farrell, who's the senior safety engineer from Cal OSHA. He wrote me a letter back saying, before any construction work is conducted on a home built prior to 1980, it must be inspected for asbestos. Asbestos inspections must be done by a certified asbestos consultant, and if any construction materials containing more than 0.1% asbestos are removed, the work must be done by a registered asbestos abatement contractor. Continued on, this is why, regardless of age, a comprehensive asbestos survey is required under federal law. The Clean Air Act, the National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants, requires that asbestos testing be conducted prior to all demolition and renovation projects, without exception, due to age or any other factor. This includes any institutional, commercial, public, industrial, or residential structure, installation, or building. Residential buildings with 4 or fewer dwellers are excluded any SHAP regulation. Now, the reason I am bringing this up is, as I said, I have spent 10 years getting these horses sound, taking care of injuries. 3 horses at the farm had paralyzed tracheas from the track. Some are very susceptible to fires and problems in the air. So I brought that up, and I also have my husband and my stepson are very susceptible. They both have asthma. I have a letter from Santa Paula West Pediatrics regarding my stepson, Phoenix Cuenca, who is a patient there, and he has had severe asthma. We've all suffered a lot of allergies and some health issues since the demolition, since July, and we're a little bit concerned about that. And this is one of the reasons I'm bringing up what I felt was an illegal demolition. Yes, they did have a permit, but it doesn't appear that there was any asbestos work or prevention or any information given to us from the Jagarta properties, who I essentially understand is the applicant's company in Pasadena, and they were the barn demo organizers. So I wanted to bring this to the Commission's attention because I know in our little community of Solvang and Los Olivos, we're all very conscientious of what is in the air, what is in the environment, what is in the land. We have a lot of wildlife. We have herons. We have hawks. We have beautiful, beautiful animals and birds that are many of the reasons why people like to live in this area. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention and then probably go on to my next point. Would you like to discuss any of these matters, or shall I just continue with my presentation as it is?
Well, it's up to you, but we certainly are fine with you going through the whole presentation, and then you probably want to reserve a few minutes of your time to rebut anything you hear from the applicant. So you're doing fine. You have about 5 minutes left in your initial presentation.
Okay, great. My My next opposition, and this is really very important, I spoke of this briefly, is the road. The road is a private road. There is no homeowners association per se. We all contribute to, in fact, just contributed to the upkeep and repaving, which I felt was very important. But we have a lot of overgrown trees that were never tended to by Mr. Sanchez over the years. So those trees are probably 60 to 70 feet high. They stand directly on the corner of Alamo, Pintado, and Random Oaks. So when any trucks come around those corners, those trees typically lose branches. I have an arena that is only about 25 yards away from those trees. It's a very dangerous intersection. There probably should be a stop sign there. There are quite a few accidents there daily. And the trucks come around the corner going about 50 miles an hour without stopping. So the first thing that they hit are the 5 or 6 trees that are there. There's another large, beautiful oak tree, which is almost 300 years old, which I actually paid to restore a few years back because I was concerned about the branches coming down and frightening the horses or causing some sort of damage to them. So I paid for that myself, almost $1,000, out of the goodness of my heart. And as I said, the road is a very dangerous one. I'm not so concerned with myself. I'm concerned with the animals on our farm. And I'm concerned with some of the other neighbors who drive up and down. And it's a dangerous situation. We understand that the applicant is aiming to extend their road 60, I think it's 60 feet east. We don't understand why there are 2 addresses for this property. I have to get those 2 addresses. There is one on Random Oaks Road, and then there is an address 2017 on, let me find this information, on Alamo Pintado Road. So there are 2 addresses. We think that it probably makes more sense to have a road built off of Alamo Pintado, since if you walk around or drive the Alamo Pintado corridor, you will see that 98% of all of the roads going into the homes and private properties are off of Alamo Pintado Road, which makes a lot of sense. The only access to the properties are to their barns. Now, this private road went into the barn at 2017 Alamo Pintado Road. And my barn is also off this road on the other side. But none of the residences off of Alamo Pintado Road, all of the driveways exit and enter off of Alamo Pintado Road. And we feel that that would be more appropriate for the safety of the animals, for the safety of the other drivers. People ride their bikes, they walk with children in strollers up and down that road. And we just feel that that would be more appropriate. My next point is the accessory dwelling. Now, I know Ms. Mitchell mentioned that you follow the Santa Barbara County codes. Well, that may be so, but there is a Solvang City code that says swimming pools need to be behind a home. It is hard for me to understand how in a 9.63 acre property, a person, an applicant, would want to build a 2,600 square foot, 2-story building, barn, on a pad that is there, put a detached garage with a restroom in the garage, which sounds like a pool house, as well as a pool, on less than an acre of property directly across the street from a farm and directly across the street from my driveway. It makes absolutely no sense to me, and I would like to perhaps understand why that accessory dwelling would be allowed to be built at the same time as the barn. In my notes, in my records, it appears that the home needs to be built first, and then the accessory dwelling. And the home needs to be built, I understand, on the same plot or pad. But as you know, that was an unpermitted barn. So I'm having difficulty understanding all of this, and perhaps someone could explain it to me, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, let me get to my other notes here.
Ms.
One more question I have.
Can I interrupt just for a minute?
Yes, you may. Yes, thank you.
You're going along covering a lot of items, and you did say
Yes.
the presentation would be 10 to 15 minutes. We've just gone past 15 minutes, and I'm going to give you a little bit more time to wrap up, but we do want to do that within the next 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I don't need much more time. There is one code that I was not familiar with. It's code 5812. And I noticed it on one of the certificates under the planning and development. That appears to be a food code, and I was unclear as to why that code would be in a zoning area AG 110. Are the applicants applying for some sort of food business, or I was confused on that, and so that was one of the questions that I'd like to address. And anyway, in my closing, I would just like to say, as a concerned neighbor, I think everyone has the right, every person has the right to buy and build, as long as it's done legally, and with some concern for the agriculture, the land, the neighbors, the animals. This is what makes our community so special. It's the people here, it's the animals, it's what we are trying to do and establish. And my program has been a model that I've been very, very proud of. I work awfully hard every day for the care of these animals. And it's something that I think we should all in the community be concerned with. And I would just like to ask you for your guidance here, and hopefully we can work something out with the road so it will make it a pleasant place for everyone to live. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Van de Vos. So the applicants in this case have 15 minutes for rebuttal and can take all at once or save it until the second opportunity for rebuttal. Mr. Jones, how do you wish to proceed?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Planning Commissioners. I would quickly like to introduce my clients, Thano and Kathy Adamson. They're under my name for some reason on your Zoom call. And then their architect, Tony George, as well as their attorney, Scott Meehan. And I think I would just quickly like to thank Ms. Mitchell for the staff report, for her support and recommendation for the denial of the appeal, and talk briefly about the appellant's items. We don't have a presentation, and this will be, I think, very quick. First off, regarding the project access, as has been stated, it is a 60-foot wide easement that is on the Adamson's property, and it is for not only the Adamsons, but also for the appellant's property, as well as approximately 10 other properties further to the west. The Adamsons pay the property taxes on this land, and the easement road driveway will be required to be widened to 20 feet from Alamo Pintado to our property entrance as a requirement from the fire department. So some of the issues that the appellant has stated regarding the width of the road, at least in that first section, will be fixed during this construction process. Regarding the barn demolition, because the barn is actually today considered ag exempt, not requiring a building permit, we were not required to get a demolition permit. However, the Adamsons wanted to go the extra mile. We were and did go forward and get a demolition permit from the building department, as well as we reached out to the air pollution control district from the county to confirm that the structure was not a regulated facility and was exempt from any notification requirements regarding asbestos. So we followed all required protocol regarding the demolition of the barn. And furthermore, the contractor that the appellant stated, Mr. Hall, went the extra mile and placed the dumpsters for the demolition of the barn at the northern property line to get as far away as he could possibly from the appellant's horses. So in my opinion, we have gone the extra mile regarding the demolition of the barn.
May I interrupt and just ask you one question?
No, Ms. Vandenbos, this is not your turn to talk, so make a note
Sorry.
and you'll have a chance in a few minutes.
Finally, I would just like to state how disappointing it is that the Adamsons have had to wait or been delayed in their project 6 months waiting to get to this hearing, and for an appeal that I believe doesn't have any merit whatsoever, and is paid for by the taxpayers of the county. I and the Adamsons respectfully request your denial of the appeal. I would like to offer Kathy and Fano, if you have any other thoughts or anything you would like to state, or their architect, Tony George, or their attorney, Scott Meehan, at this point. But that concludes any presentation that I might have, and I'm obviously here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I see Commissioner Bridley's hand up. Are you ready with a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Jones, thank you for the presentation. And I heard something a little bit contrary from the appellant's testimony, but you were advised by both the fire department and I think recently the transportation division of Public Works that the driveway for the property development is preferable, off of the easement road that's actually on your property, as opposed to a direct driveway from Alamo Pintado. Do I have that correct? Because I don't think that's what the appellant said.
That is correct. Yes. Fire department, with also requiring the widening, agreed that the driveway is how we should be taking access to the property. And I do have, forgive me for bringing this up, I do have an email from Will Robertson, our county transportation planning supervisor, stating that the roads department would not allow a new driveway off Alamo Pintado, that they would require this property to be served by the easement Random Oaks Road, which also I didn't, the appellant mentioned the addressing, and the fire department is requiring the address to be off of Random Oaks Road rather than Alamo Pintado. So the historic address has been 2017. The new address is 2000 Random Oaks Road, and that was a requirement of the fire department.
Thank you for that clarification.
Anybody else from the applicant team wishing to take a few minutes? Mr.
No, it's Mexican. I don't want to go.
I don't see anybody else. Okay. So Commissioner Park has a question.
Yes, and I wanted to ask it at the end of the applicant's presentation, and I think we're at the end of the applicant's presentation, if I'm hearing things correctly. So I'll ask this of, I think, their agent, just because no one else has spoken. The question I'm going to ask you does not address the merits in any way whatsoever. I just wonder if you can provide assurance, whether through this proceeding or informally, or just informally as a good neighbor, that you will provide notice during the construction process, if this is approved, to the appellant, so that she'll know that when she's out training horses, whether there will be noise and activity nearby, and she can curtail her activities accordingly. Is that something you can do as a good neighbor?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Park, not being in the room with the Adamsons, and I can't see them, but I'm assuming yes. And I should say that our contractor during the demolition process provided updates to the appellant. So I think that's a reasonable request, and unless I hear differently from the Adamsons now, we could certainly make that promise.
Thank you.
Mr. or Ms. Adamson, would you like to say anything before we move back to the appellant? You're not hearable to us. You need to unmute yourself if you can. Not able to do it? Okay.
Here we go. We got it.
Can you hear us now?
All right. Yes, we can.
Okay. I would just like to thank Tina for a very thorough response to the appeal. And I could rebut many items on Jan's response, but I don't think it's necessary.
And then in regards to.
Oh yeah, the noticing, our contractor, Kerry Hall, is very thorough and conscientious of our neighbors' horses. And I'm sure he will be very active in notifying Jan of any unusual noise that's coming from our property that could potentially disrupt her horses.
All right, thank you both very much. At this point, let's go back to the appellant, and you have another minute to respond to anything you heard, Ms. Van der Bos.
Yes, thank you so much. This question is for Mr. Jones, Brett Jones. Brett, you state that Kerry Hall and the applicants went the extra mile to provide dumpsters, to take care of, I think they were even wearing masks, but they were totally negligent in walking over to our gate and telling one of the workers or myself while I was riding an off-track thoroughbred, training one, that perhaps a demolition might cause some problems. To me, there is no common decency there. That is not being a good neighbor. That's not being a good person. As I said, I've dedicated my life, work 14 hours a day, do the vet work, take care of animals out of my own private wealth. I have no business there. My business is in Lexington, Kentucky, and I do this because of the love of the animal. And again, I don't need to say anything other than there's something called common decency. And we have a small community with good people involved in St. Mark's Church and many of the organizations, and we hope to keep it that way. And I understand the Adamsons have moved from a different area, and maybe things are done a little bit differently in Los Angeles. But I lived in San Francisco for 40 years, and we had a lot of nice neighbors, and we never had issues like this. So I would be very happy to have people that are concerned with our animals and our welfare. And I thank you for your time today and listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Van der Bos. Okay, unless there are additional questions for either of the parties from commissioners, I see Commissioner Blau. Do you have a question, Commissioner Blau?
Yeah, it's actually a question for staff.
Let's hold off 1 second then. Let's make sure we have all the questions of the parties.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Jones, anything to add?
Mr. Chair, commissioners, no, just in response, I'm not sure she actually asked me a question, but I do apologize for any initial lack of communication. Kerry Hall is a well-respected contractor here in the Valley, actually one of my best friends, and can certainly assure you that he wouldn't do anything to harm an animal. So please accept our apology for that. Thank you. Nothing else.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll now turn back to staff and ask Ms. Mitchell if she has any comments and to get the question from Commissioner Blau. Ms. Mitchell, anything else to add?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything to add, but I'm happy to answer your questions.
I'm sure. Commissioner Blau.
Yeah, hang on one second here. Kill that. Thanks. Yeah, it bothers me a little bit that there's some problem with the noise that might affect an adjacent property. I know we have ordinance in this county that says that you cannot have construction activities that create noise except for 8:30 to, I don't know what the time is, 5 o'clock. And I assume that's going to be a standard condition for this project. So Ms. Mitchell, is that true?
Yes, Commissioner Blau, through the chair. Yes, that is a condition that has already been applied to this project. Standard construction operating hours are limited to 8 to 5 p.m., I believe. And that's in the conditions of approval in the staff report.
Right. So it's for me, it's I don't foresee this commission having a more restrictive condition than that's of the standard. So I would ask my fellow commissioners if I'm correct in that assumption. So we have the standard condition as part of the project going forward, and I don't see a reason to have a different one. I sympathize with the adjacent property owner if she has animals that could be adversely affected by noise, but you know, you don't get to do that, that I know of. It'd be nice if the property owner would notify her of that condition, but what are you going to do to change the condition? I mean, my cement truck, when it backs up to pour a foundation, has a mandatory, device that beeps so that you don't get run over if you're standing back there. So how do you change that or do anything different?
Okay. Commissioner Farini?
Thank you, Chair Cooney. And this would go back to a question for Ms. Mitchell, and I think Commissioner Blau touched on it. But just to verify that I have the right conditions of approval in front of me, they do show that construction activity is limited to Monday through Friday at a set time as set forth by planning and development. Is that still intact, Ms. Mitchell?
Commissioner Farini, through the chair, that's correct. Yeah, I have the conditions of approval in front of me, and it's condition number 4. And correcting myself from before, the hours are limited to 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. So no construction on weekends or state holidays.
Okay, so from my point of view only is that is notice to all neighbors, right? The project was posted according to the regulations of planning and development, and that is the notice. And I think it's burdensome, and it's just going to cause a bunch of problems to require the building contractor or or the landowner here and the project owner to have to go next door and notify somebody every day when, building is building, and it's a temporary process. And I think to ask them to go give notice every day is not appropriate, and it's going to open a can of worms, and we're going to have more that she said. I think it'll really burden planning and development. So I would not be in favor of adding any additional requirements for that. Okay, Ms. Mitchell, also Ms. Vanden Boss brought up code 5812 and had concerns that would involve some type of food service. Can you clarify that for us, please?
Commissioner Freeney.
Yes, I had that question. I'm sorry. I saw that on a.
Yeah, Vanden Boss, I'm talking to staff right now, not to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, Commissioner Freeney through the chair. I don't know which code section she's referencing. I would need a little more information. That's not ringing a bell on my end. I don't know if Deputy Director Seawards knows anything additional.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I have no additional information. As far as we're aware, there's no food service being proposed as part of this project, so I think we would need more specificity on the issue before we could provide any more answers to this.
So is
I'm sorry.
Code 5812 in the project? Do you see anything, Mr. Seward?
No, there's no, Ms. Mitchell, there's no food service proposed with the project. That's correct, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
No food service, yeah.
Okay.
May I interject for just a moment?
Ms. Vanderbilt, I'll tell you what, we're trying to follow our process here.
Okay.
We've heard from the parties, the appellant, you, and the applicants, and we're now discussing the case with staff, and then we're going to proceed with deliberations. It does not appear that the code section has relevance to this proceeding, but it doesn't prevent you from inquiring of staff after the hearing what might be your concern.
Are you on mute?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So if we, Commissioner Freeney, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off if you have more questions.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, questions for Ms. Mitchell or other staff? All right, let's go to deliberations then.
Mr. Chair.
This is a matter in the 3rd District, Commissioner Park. How would you like us to proceed?
Chair Cooney, I want to speak first and be blunt in my assessment, but I'm going to try to bite my tongue and be as diplomatic as possible, which I'm not very good at.
Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Park, I hate to interrupt, but I don't believe that we've called for public comment yet.
It's true.
No, that's a good reason to interrupt. I was moving a little rapidly to get back to staff before public comment. So we need to ask if there are any members of the public that you're aware of, Mr. Villalobos, that might have comment on this project.
We did have one member who joined us a little bit later in the meeting. One speaker, John Mullins.
Mr. Mullins?
Mr. Mullins, if you could unmute yourself. Mr. Mullins may have stepped away from his computer.
Okay. Well, I think we need to move to deliberations, and Commissioner Park was just getting underway.
Okay. When I heard Ms. Vandenbos describe her activities, it caused my memory to harken back to over 30 years ago when I represented Mandy's Land Farms, which had a major thoroughbred rehabilitation facility in the San Ynez Valley. So I understand that. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And it's very interesting. And I would hope sometime, Ms. Vandenbos, that I could be invited to visit your facility and see what you do. And I live nearby. Several times, Ms. Vandenbos, in her presentation, referred to not understanding something or appreciating more guidance. I think it's unfortunate that understanding and guidance would not be afforded to you until now, when you will hopefully get it from the Planning Commission. I think, to be very candid, you would have benefited from seeking some professional advice from a planner or attorney to sort out some of these issues for you, which may seem complicated to you, but will seem very clear to our Planning Commission. Taking the claim about the pool in a reference to the Solvang Municipal Code just is nonsensical here. We are in the county. We're not bound by that statute. We don't really have any interest in it. On the issue of the road access, I drive that road hundreds of times a year. And believe me, anyone who drives that road does not want to see still another driveway coming out on Alamo Pintado, and the public will vastly prefer that all access be through Random Oaks. And as an attorney who's litigated easements ad nauseum, ad infinitum, the rights that the Addisons have to their own property over which an easement travels are unquestioned. The issue about the barn, the barn is an accessory barn that I don't think, even from your reading of the asbestos provisions of federal law, apply whatsoever. In terms of it being old and historic, it wasn't. I mean, it's 1987. I was thinking of things that are around my property. They're older. And I have my wife's car. I have a horse, a tractor, a blue and gold macaw. I mean, numerous things that are older than what this barn was when it was torn down. And it's just not an issue. I think the Addisons will be proud to be your neighbors and see such a beautiful facility as you have. And they'll be honored by the passion you have to do such good work. I think that you will find them to be good neighbors in what they're building. They're building a relatively modest house that is essentially a replica of the barn that was there. I note that in the rest of the neighborhood, all the others that travel along Random Oaks Road, and you see from Random Oaks Road, including, I believe, your house, they're up on hilltops. They're considerably larger and more conspicuous. And I think that you'll benefit from this modest project compared to what otherwise could go in. Frankly, the claims that are made here in this appeal, were they in a litigation proceeding, would border on malicious prosecution. Here, we don't have those same remedies available. At least they're not remedies that the county discusses. I have an overarching concern about time and money. I have lots more time than any other commissioner. Our other commissioners are very busy people. And they're excellent. They're doing volunteer work. But this hearing got 5 to 10 staff people. A very thorough staff report was done before the hearing and investigation. This appeal costs a lot of money. At least it's not being borne by the Adamsons, but the Adamsons, of course, are paying Mr. Jones, and I'm sure they've had some sleepless nights over this over several months. But the county is spending thousands and thousands of dollars on this appeal, which I believe to be unmeritorious. So I would hope in the future, if there are questions where you need something explained, get professional services. And I would hope that you and the Addisons make an attempt to find some peace with each other, learn to get along, and on an informal basis, make this process go, the process of improving the property on the Addison side, go as smoothly as possible. So with all that being said, I will make a motion at the proper time, Chair Cooney, to deny the appeal and adopt the recommendations made in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Park. Commissioner Blau? Muted, Dan.
Sorry, we're in deliberation. So, gosh, I wish I'd had the schooling that Commissioner Park had. Unmeritorious. That's a really nice word. My description was ridiculous. I mean, and I appreciate the fact that he is now concerned about the fact that how much money the county has spent when to hear this appeal. I get it. You want people to have the ability to make an appeal, but you know, I'm a property rights kind of a guy, and unless I'm doing something that's obnoxious next to your property, you don't have the right to tell me that my pool needs to be behind the house, or how big my house is, or which road access I take. So I'm and my puppy feels the same way. So I agree with you. And if and when you make the motion, I would be delighted to second it.
Commissioner Bridley?
You're muted, Laura.
I also love the word unmeritorious. That was very elegant, Commissioner Park. I might have to work that into my vocabulary this week. I concur with both of what you've said, and from a planning standpoint, I thought it was a complete waste of time. Ms. Vandebos has an honorable vocation on her property. I am not certain that it doesn't require some kind of a conditional use permit or something for having that many animals for doing rehabilitative work, but that's not the topic today. And what we see in the 3rd district, and I've seen it in the 2nd district, which has grown, maybe faster, is that when an empty lot becomes developed, neighbors get upset, and they come at it like it was a private, open space for them for many years. And then when somebody buys it and develops it, it becomes upsetting. And I think that's what we have here today. And it's unfortunate that Ms. Vandebos didn't go ahead and just buy it. That way she could control it. However, I think that everything in the application is completely in line with the code. I think the applicants have done a good job of doing everything. I want to remind everybody that as part of the development of a single family home on this property and, the accessory buildings, he's going to have to improve the driveway up to their driveway. And that's going to improve it for everybody using that space, including Ms. Vandebos and the neighbors, up the road. So, and to suggest that this property should be accessed from Alamo Pintado, that's the thing that really made me scratch my head, because as we know in transportation planning, you don't take an access off the highest volume of your property. If you have an alternate access with a lower volume, that's of course where transportation planners want you to go. So the main line isn't, slowed down, or there's less accident rates on that. If there are driveways on Alamo Pintado, I know there are. I've visited some of them. I have some friends up there too. Those are probably when, the volumes in San Ynez were far less than they are now. So the point is that the applicant already got good direction from the fire department in terms of the road base and the improvements of the easement roadway, and also from the transportation department just yesterday about preferring that location as opposed to an Alamo Pintado driveway. And a single family house, especially a modest one like this with a pool and a barn, you know, and a couple accessory buildings, is completely reasonable on a 9.8 acre parcel. And I certainly hope you guys can get along because you'll be living together or across from each other for a while. So I am completely in support of the motion to deny the appeal and look forward to that vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bridley. Commissioner Farini.
Thank you, Chair Cooney. Yeah, as I'm listening to my fellow commissioners discuss this project, it came to mind that I think the community should be thankful of the Adamsons and the project that they're doing. They're doing a very, very small scale project on this property. And as we see more and more sitting at the Planning Commission, that the state of California continues to pass legislation to encourage higher density. And they could certainly do it on this property, build a bigger house, do accessory dwelling units, and on and on. And they're not doing that. So to me, they're being very conservative in their approach on this property. And if they were my neighbor, I would be very thankful for them. So I'm ready to move forward with denial of the appeal.
Thank you, Commissioner Farini. I just have a couple of comments. I think Ms. Van de Bos was looking for a different type of process, questioning what the neighbors were doing, and had good questions, didn't get them answered for one reason or another. And so consequently, she filed this appeal. And as all of the commissioners have noted, it really has been an expensive process for the county, for all of us involved. But we need to keep in mind, and I'll say this just as a strongly held feeling I have, that our process in the county does permit appeals of any project that requires a land use permit, a coastal development permit. The smallest type of improvement can be appealed. And I would dread not having that option for when it really is necessary or appropriate. This doesn't happen to rise to that level, and we all look at it and conclude it has been an inappropriate expenditure of time. But she did have the right to file the appeal. She paid her appeal fee and has appeared today and presented her side of the coin. And I think the process has worked, as cumbersome as it can be. So I'm prepared, of course, to support the motion for denial of the appeal, but in doing so, I respect the process. Commissioner Park, we're ready for your motion.
I will move that we deny the appeal and follow the recommendations and make the findings as identified on the staff report.
I will second that, as I said before.
We have the staff report also refers to the exemption from CEQA and the fact that we're granting de novo approval of the project as it's now on the screen. And this is your motion, Commissioner Park?
Yes, because I would include in the recommendations made by the staff report, as you point out, that not only do we deny the appeal, make the required findings for approval but that we determine the project is exempt from CEQA and we grant the de novo approval of the modified project. So thank you.
And the second was Commissioner Blau?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're ready for the roll call.
I have one more comment if I could. Just for the record, there was a lot of discussion about some hang on a minute here. Never mind. I'm good. I'm good to go.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Farini,
Aye.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Villalobos, for keeping us inside the lanes as always. Is there anything further, Mr. Wilson, that we need to consider this afternoon?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. We do not have anything else. Thanks.
All right.
Chair Cooney, I'd like to point out something. And
Commissioner Park.
at every hearing we've had this year under your chairmanship, we've managed to finish before lunch. So I sure hope you can keep that streak going all year.
Well, maybe we can get staff to schedule meetings daily and we'll be able to keep the hours down.
Careful what we wish for, huh?
Just so you know, John, I've been here 13, 14 years now. Not gonna happen, trust me.
I know, but I can always
wish.
Right.
Well, we're going to hear from Commissioner Blau further about his intention to step back and look forward to an opportunity to reply about our great appreciation. So for today, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.